Supreme Court recognized that the Constitution guarantees marriage equality. We can now say this for certain. The Affordable Care Act still stands. It is working, and it is here to stay.
Last week, was it a legacy builder for President Obama? He got some help from the Supreme Court, those decisions on same-sex marriage and that decision that preserved Obamacare. But will the last 7 days be enough to cement Mr. Obama's legacy? Joining us now, joining us for the second time tonight, someone who understands the whole notion of presidential legacy. He's the president of Shirley Banister Public Affairs, Craig Shirley, and as you know, he's also the author of The Last Act, The Final Years and Emerging Legacy of Ronald Reagan. Now, Craig, we appreciate you hanging in for this second little chance to chat tonight.
Sure.
It may sound heretical to conservatives, but you know, President Obama said he was going to fundamentally change America, and it looks like he's on track to get that done.
I think you're absolutely right. I'm not sure that everybody would agree that fundamental change is for the better, but he certainly left a legacy. Whether or not it will survive his presidency is another matter, but he obviously was aided and assisted by the Supreme Court. I do think it's interesting is that the court somehow defined that a marriage right in the Constitution, when marriage clearly comes from the Bible. And the Constitution, as we've been told for 200 years by liberals, is all about the separation of church and state. And the Bible, going back to Genesis, talks of marriage as being between one man and one woman. But now the Constitution is somehow defined as the states must perform marriage for two men or two women, which is rather odd to me. I'm not sure it's intellectually honest. It's more, I think, a sign of the times, or more about political correctness or the pressures of Washington public relations and the liberal atmosphere, the liberal hothouse that's here in Washington. But
well, against that, let me ask you this question, Craig, because Newt Gingrich, our mutual friend, talked about Ronald Reagan's cheerful persistence every time there was a setback. What would Reagan be doing in the wake of these two decisions? 45 seconds.
Oh, he'd be proposing constitutional amendments to re-empower the states to perform their own marriage ceremonies. He would be on permanent offense. He would find a way to either through the legislative process, certainly through the court of public opinion, to articulate and campaign for a different outcome than what we saw last week. As far as the Affordable Care Act, again, he knew the way to beat an idea was with a better idea, and the better idea would be a free market-based healthcare system that truly provided for all Americans affordable healthcare at cheap prices.
Craig Shirley, we appreciate you taking a second bite at the apple this evening on Newsmax Prime about legacy building and how to respond to Mr. Obama. Craig Shirley, of course, the author of the book, The Last Act, The Final Years and Emerging Legacy of Ronald Reagan. Now, time to hear what's on your mind via social media. Several viewers have written in about our interview with Commander J.B. Wells last week on VA benefits for those opposed to Agent Orange and a push to get those benefits extended to Blue Water Navy veterans of Vietnam. We heard from Kenneth, and he wrote the following. I listened to the interview between JD and Commander Wells. Very interesting. Waiting to hear about the meeting with the commander and the deputy VA secretary on July 6th, hoping us Blue Water veterans will finally get compensation for Agent Orange diseases. We've been getting the shaft since 2002. The Australian Navy has been getting compensation since 2006, but the United States VA has denied us for years. Kenneth, we thank you for writing in. We hope to have Commander Wells back on after he meets in D.C. on July 6th. We will bring you updates as we get them. And speaking of looking ahead, a programming reminder. You can see my one-on-one interview with 2016 presidential candidate Donald Trump in its entirety this coming Saturday night at 10 o'clock Eastern, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, right here on Newsmax TV. So keep that in mind, a way to spend the evening of the 4th after some fireworks. That'll do it for tonight. Stay brave, stay free, stay tuned.